Hello, welcome to The Exhausted Programmer. My name is Alexander, and this is part 3 of our awk series. Today, we're going to look more into how to better define our fields. Before we get started, a thing that is really important to point out is check your awk version. The previous videos were being handled by a version of awk that is different than the version that I was thinking I was using because a lot of the stuff works the same way on different versions. I prefer the GNU's version of awk, gawk, and you can know what you have by running this command. This is GNU awk 5.2. That's also important because in the future, and by that I'm hoping pretty soon, there'll be version 5.3, which will give us a --CSV flag, which will handle your comma separated values. So if that's what you're here for, see what version you're on, and maybe you don't need to watch anything else. You can just use the --CSV flag. I do not have that here. Plus, even if I did, I would still do this video because it helps to show more things that awk can do for you, because maybe you have some other type of data you want to process that is similar but not exactly a comma separated value amount of data. For this video, we're looking at some different data than what we did in the previous ones. There's a file called test in the link down below where you can find not only the test data, but also all the commands that I ran for this video. Here we have what is obviously comma separated values to some people, maybe not to you. But the point is this data is expected that the commas will separate the values out, but that these quotes will tell the consumer not to consume this comma. When we run our awk command to print out the 7th column, we would expect USA because that would be the 7th if you count it out. But remember, awk by default separates values based on the spaces. To help make this a little bit clearer, I've added some syntax highlighting to this video. First, I'm going to highlight all the even columns with yellow. That way we can easily tell that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, which is why there is no 7th here. And also for the field separators, I'm going to highlight those as well, just to make it a little bit more clear how awk is saying things. So it's consuming this field, this is a separator, then it's consuming this field, this is a separator. So to get this kind of information though, if you don't have this syntax highlighting, which I don't know how you would, because this is a very custom thing I made for this video, you can run a command where you print the number of fields per each line. So if this was multiple lines, remember awk treats each line by default as its own record. This will print the number of fields in each record. A very common problem with comma separated values and any other data consumption is that something breaks the consumption of the data such that it assumes there's more or less rows than expected. Instead, in order to make this more friendly for comma separated values, let's separate out by commas by redefining our field separator. We can do this by changing the variable, the -v flag. We'll say the field separator now is just a comma. And now it says we have 8. Again, we're expecting 7. So let's change our syntax highlighting to make it a little bit clearer what's going on. It goes to the comma, and then that's one field. This is another. It goes all the way to this comma because it doesn't know to treat quotes as anything special. And then this is a separate field. And then everything else is read as we would expect. So how can we define the field separator in order to make this act as we would expect? Well, I would say that it's not by separating out the fields better, but by defining what is a field. So right now the field separator says that if as soon as you see a comma, you're no longer reading a field, but there's a different variable that we can set called the field pattern, and it will tell it what is a field. So let's rewrite this command in a way that does the same thing, but using the field pattern variable. What this is doing is this is regex, and it's saying a field pattern is anything that is not a comma. One or more anythings that are not a comma. If you have blank data inside, so comma and then another comma, you can replace this plus with an asterisk so that it can be 0 or more anythings that are not commas. Learning regex can be very helpful to make little fixes for problems like that. But we still have the same problem. There's still 8 fields according to awk because it doesn't treat this comma any way differently. So let's better define what is a pattern. We can do that by just adding more to our regex. Always a good phrase to hear, adding more regex. But first, note what we have here. We're saying that anything that is not a comma, so anything that's not, this means not in this case, and in the last command, is a comma, and as many of those as you see until you see a comma, or, and this is a little bit more data right in front of your face, but I'll explain it. These backslashes can be ignored for reading the regex. These are just here to tell bash that this quote does not match this quote, that this is just a quote. These quotes tell bash that what's inside them is a string, and if we left this out, then it would think that this would be the string. Instead, we want to say, no, we want this to be inside the string. So these three are just here for bash. But again, same thing, not a quote. Anything that's not a quote inside quotes. What that means is it sees a quote, so it says, hey, we're in this pattern, and I'm going to keep reading anything, including commas, because that's not inside this not area, till we hit the next quote, and that's the end of the field. So a field pattern can either be something inside quotes or anything once you hit a comma, the comma is not included. And again, when we print the number of fields for tests, we say there's 7. My syntax highlighting is not matching that, so let's fix that real quick. And there we go. This comma and this comma is being read, this comma is being ignored, and then these are being read, again, because of the quotes. Now, before you just copy this regex and assume you have your CSVs handled, I have seen CSVs that do all sorts of crazy stuff that are incompatible with the way other people use CSVs. Some will escape their quotes inside of quotes using this backslash quotes, which we could then add a little bit of changes here. Or similarly, some places will try to escape quotes inside of other quotes by using double quotes followed by double quotes. So if we wanted to have the word street in double quotes, it would be double quote, street, double quote. Or like I said, backslash quote, street, backslash quote. I can't predict how everyone's going to use it. If you know how to use regex and how to make small changes to this, you could fix it to better fit whatever data you're using. Or you can, again, just check your awk version to see if you're on GNU's awk 5.3 and hope that that --CSV flag works for you. There are other ways of defining fields in records and helping you dissect the data you get from other sources that I will cover in a much later video. I am keeping these short, which is why it's not included here, and I'm trying to get to the information that most people could use, which is why I'm not going to cover that stuff next. But if that is something of value, please stay tuned because I will get to it eventually. Or you can go to the GNU documentation and try to find what you're needing there if it's important to get done today. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.